Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Write Better Together with Peggy and Kennedy. Joining us today is our extra special guest, Sean Fitzgibbon, and we'll be talking about his work, what he's up to today, and also one of my favorite works of his, Crescent Hotel. What follows is true. I already know what it's about because I've read it, but Mr. Fitzgibbon, would you please tell the viewers kind of about this book and anything about what you're doing right now?
Sure, yeah. My book, What Follows is True, Crescent Hotel, is a book that I started quite a few years ago. I live in Northwest Arkansas, and I'm originally from Southwest Missouri. And as a kid, I was always fascinated by the Eureka Springs because my parents would take me there and take my sister and I down there, and we would visit. And I was just fascinated by the town. You know, it's such an unusual, interesting place. Um, and the thing that really fascinated me the most was the hotel that sits at the highest point of town and has this very strange, kind of a dark history. And they also offer these ghost tours, and so I would go on these ghost tours, and they would tell about all these, stories of, because the hotel was built in 1886, and so a lot has happened since then. And so they tell a lot of these stories about different people that have come and gone, and had died throughout the years. And so the hotel originally was a very opulent, very wealthy, kind of a historic. It was a very exclusive hotel, and it was only the wealthiest people stayed there. But that didn't last very long, and so by like 1904, they ended up having to sort of shut down. At least they shut down partially during the winter period, from like fall, winter, and spring. It became a girls' school. It was called the Crescent Conservatory for young women, and then during the summer, it would go back to being the Crescent Hotel, and that was how they were able to keep the lights on, and they were able to fund this hotel, and then that lasts for about until 1934, and then the Great Depression came along, and that kind of ended both the girls' school and the hotel, and it sat empty for a couple of years until 1937, and along came this guy named Norman Baker, and he was driving a purple Cord Roadster, and this is at a time when all the cars, most cars out there were black, and so it was a kind of a, very, he was a very flamboyant individual, and he wore white suits and lavender ties and purple shirts, and he claimed to have the cure for cancer, and he told the people of Eureka Springs, I'm going to open up that hotel, that derelict, abandoned hotel up on the hill, and turn it into the Baker Hospital, where I'm going to cure cancer. And so that's what he did. Is he opened it up, and the hotel was opened as the Baker Hospital for 2 years until his arrest in 1939, because he was not curing cancer, obviously. And that is that chapter of the Crescent Hotel is where the majority of these ghost stories come from, because so many people sadly went there, hoping that he would cure them, people that were dying of this horrible disease. And sadly, he wasn't. He was just taking their money. And I was just so curious as to what on earth happened, what really, who was this guy? How did this happen? And just what was the story, And so that's what kind of set me on this journey. I moved to Fayetteville, where I live in Fayetteville, Arkansas, in 2003 to go to graduate school to get my master's in fine art. And after I graduated in '06, I started, kind of going down there and researching this a bit. And so that's kind of what, the next thing you know, I'm down or I'm at this guy's hometown of Muscatine, Iowa, where he was from, interviewing people, and then I'm going to this writers colony at Dairy Hollow in Eureka Springs. It's a writers workshop, or what writers residency, and I stayed there for a week, and I interviewed people all over Eureka Springs, and I just started putting together as much information as I could compile, about this individual and this place and this particular time. And that's what I did, and then I thought it would be really interesting to tell the story in a visual format, and I've actually I did a graphic novel about, I don't know, well, actually about 20 years ago, I put one out, and I'm actually going to re-release that. My plan is to re-release this graphic novel I did 20 years ago, but it was a black and white. I'm going to do it in color, and it's going to be, a much nicer format than it was then, with a new cover and all that. But and that I'm actually planning on doing that while I'm working on my next What Follows is True book. So I've got another one on the way. So What Follows is True is actually sort of the umbrella of these different stories that I'm kind of telling, that are strange, unusual places around the world that you can go visit and have these very kind of very interesting histories, very strange kind of histories. Tells about the place and the people, and what makes these places so unusual, but and so interesting, because it's a very interesting world out there if you just go out and explore. And that's truly why I do these books, because I want people to like read, say, the Crest Hotel book, and then go to Eureka Springs, and explore Eureka Springs, and explore the hotel and learn about it. Learn about that place and that history, and keep exploring, keep learning, keep researching, and
Definitely.
because I think that's so vitally important.
Yes. One thing about Write Better Together, we're really big about trying to get people out of their bubbles and kind of away from
Yep.
introverted things and going outside and doing things.
Great.
So
I
that fits
love it.
perfectly.
Yeah.
Definitely.
No, that's a
Thank you.
wonderful mission statement, or a wonderful idea, or whatever what that's wonderful, because yeah, I think the more people get out and do things together, and like I said, stay curious together, um, travel together, and be communities together, start doing things together once again. um,
Definitely.
yeah, it's a great thing. I think
No.
COVID kind of mess things up a little bit, but I think we're starting to see people coming out of their bubbles, like you said, a little bit more, and staying off of these as or try. They realize it's not healthy to be on your phone all day and all that kind of thing.
Definitely. So I really love that you illustrate your own works and all
Oh,
that
thank
that
you,
you're an artist and a writer. I feel like the two go very closely together.
thank
Actually, I
you.
believe that writing itself is art. So I don't know. I just really
Yeah,
love that.
100%. I completely agree. Yeah, writing is an art form, and it's another way of telling stories. Just like drawing and visual communications. We're just whether you're telling a story visually or you're writing it, we're communicating, right? Like that's what we're telling stories, and so I always love. See, I mean, I love art and I love stories. um, and so I just want to combine the two.
Definitely.
Um,
And I feel like it reaches a wide variety of people too, people who love art, people who love history, that
Yeah,
sort of thing. So
totally.
it's really
Yeah, and I also I love history. I love just that. In fact, I'm this semester. I also often teach an art history class. It's an art appreciation class for students, college students, and this semester it's like high school kids that are um, going into college, and so that's a really great. I think I really enjoy seeing working with students, and exploring art history with them, and helping kind of open up that world for them, Um,
great.
and once again, with that, it's like it's always about going to museums and appreciating art. We're living more and more in a visual, environment, that's informed by visuals, and I think this is such a wonderful time for people to become more and more engaged with the arts and art history. If you really want to have a good understanding of history, one great way to kind of go into that is by looking at art history, because it's a reflection of what was happening throughout different places and times.
Exactly. It's like looking into their minds and hearts.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's right. For sure.
Definitely.
And I really try to, there's so many, I don't, I don't know. I mean, there's so many different periods that I adore in art history and art, throughout, I mean, so many different movements, that I kind of pull from with my work. And I mean, I've done gallery shows where I exhibit my work, but I really wanted to kind of marry the two of like telling stories, and my gallery work, which is also like I use all different medium. I know most of my work is all drawing based, but with this book, I mean, I'm using a lot of my gallery techniques where I'm actually drawing and painting into it, and using mixed media and combine, just doing all kinds of different ways of expressing, to tell stories. So,
I love that. Was
yeah.
it, what was it like in publishing a kind of this kind of book? It was so unique. I'm just curious about that experience. And of course, I know absolutely nothing about the publishing world, so
Well, I'll tell you honestly, my book is actually self-published. I don't have so Curio Box is me. I'm doing the whole thing. So so I queried literary agents back in it's like 2019. I was trying to find literary agents, and I was sending out because I was finishing up the book, and so I was sending. I actually was trying to find someone that could help me find a publisher. And then I was reached out to by a literary agent that said, I think I could get this published for you. But we had a hard time because I found out that publishers are very risk adverse to any kind of material they're not aware of or they're not familiar with.
right.
If I had done a book about the moon landing, well, we all know they would probably pick it up. If it was about the Civil War or something, which those are historical things that are very important, but we all know about it. And so they're like, well, and they'd probably, they'd be like, well, that'll sell. We know there's a large group of people that will probably be interested in that. But with mine, I think they didn't really know, even though it's universal themes, because at the heart of my book, it's about demagoguery. It's about a con man, a person who's taking advantage of people and making money, off of lies. And that's what this guy, this Norman Baker, who he was, and a lot of people read my book and they're like, oh, wow, well, this is very relevant, and so what I ended up doing, because also whenever I was looking for an agent, COVID hit. And so that was really difficult to find one then. So I ended up just I thought, you know what, I'm going to do a Kickstarter campaign. And so what I did is I put together these 30-page uh, preview books. There's a little printing company, or a printing company in Chicago, and I believe they're also based in the UK. They're called Mixam, and I printed a full color 30-page preview book, and it was like the first 30 pages of the book. And what I did is started going. Well, first I put together my Kickstarter page, and then once I had that put together, where I announced I'm going to have this Kickstarter campaign, then I started going. I didn't start the campaign yet. In fact, I waited almost probably 6 months, where I really built up momentum and an audience, and told people all about that I'm going to do that, which is very important if you want to do a Kickstarter campaign. If you want to, do like a movie or a book or whatever it is you want to do, make sure you let people know beforehand. And I would give yourself a few months to really get the word out. And so I was giving talks at libraries, bookstores, and universities, and letting people know about this Kickstarter campaign. And so when I finally did the campaign, it was a month-long campaign. And by the end of that month, I needed $11,000 to print 1,000 books. And by the end of that month, I raised almost $30,000.
Oh, wow.
And
Awesome.
so, it was almost 29,000, but it was, but it was, And so and people ask me how I did it. And I tell them, I said, well, because I sold these preview books. I had like 500 of them, and I would sell those for $5 to people. When you do that sort of thing, always make sure you sell it to people. Don't just give them away, because you want to, it costs you money to do it. Plus, people want to buy something. They want to contribute. You know what I mean? And they want to know that this is something of value, and it is, because it's and they feel better about if they buy something. And it was just $5 for the preview book. But anyway, through that campaign, I was able to get this book launched, and right now I'm on the third print run of 1,000 books. So I have in storage, I have 1,000 books that were just delivered to me about a little over a month ago, something like that. And I've sold 2,000 books. For a self-published book, it's pretty good. It's good, but but there's so many people that don't know about the book, that I think would absolutely, I know they would love the book, and
Definitely.
so you keep doing it to get the word out, so more and more people can learn about these really interesting histories, like with the Crescent Hotel. It's a strange and dark and but also very hopeful at the end of this book. There's a hopefulness, and but it's very strange and interesting, so anyway, and through that I was actually reached out to by other people, and I can tell you about that if you'd like. I've got what the next book is, unless you want to keep talking about this one for a little bit. But
Sure, talk about your next book. What's next for you?
okay, yeah. So through that book, I was reached out to by the University of Arkansas's Archaeological Survey, and they put me in connection with it's called the Plum Bayou Mounds Archaeological State Park near Little Rock, and that was formerly known as Toltec Mounds. And what this they are some ancient earthen monuments that were built by natives about 1,000 years ago during what was known as the late woodland period in North America. And and it's an archaeological state park. It's like it's this delta region that is very flat, except just and it's not far from the Arkansas River. And rising up in these fields is these massive mounds, these massive earthen monuments. And if you go out there, it really is quite spectacular and really kind of takes your breath away when you see this, because it's just really a sight to behold. And there's a museum there as well, and you can learn about it. And there's trails all around this park. And so I'm working with the archaeology team, and we're telling the story about the archaeology and the history and the science and everything that goes behind this site, this archaeological site. And it's been fascinating. I've gone down there and I've gone on archaeological excavations with the team down there, and it's been really eye-opening, and just it's been so much fun, and I've met so many great people, and once again, it's like you said, getting out of that bubble. And I recommend people also, if you've never been on an archaeological dig, look up where people are doing archaeology and go out and dig with them. They love having people out there to help out, doing that stuff. And it's really fun, and you learn a lot about the process of archaeology and how that works, And so I'm actually working on that book right now. And in the meantime, like I said, I want to put out there's an earlier graphic novel that I did that I want to reprint. I'm going to put out there. I'm still kind of working on how I'm going to, get that out there, but I hope to get that out sometime this year as well. And then I hope to, and then I'm planning on finishing the Plum Bayou Mounds, What Follows is True Plum Bayou Mounds book this year as well. So probably it'll be later this year, early next year, but we're going to get this thing out. I'm working on that right now. So it's coming along,
Cool. Do you mind if I ask what are the differences between like writing a graphic novel and writing a regular novel, I guess, besides the illustrations?
Well, I've never really written a novel. You mean like a graphic novel or a graphic nonfiction or?
Something like that, I guess. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
well, so the thing is with novels, they're inherently works of fiction, right? So it's always kind of strange whenever I don't know really what to call like what follows is true Crescent Hotel, because it falls more into the nonfiction category, because it's historical. And so I just kind of call it graphic nonfiction. I don't really know, because nonfiction graphic novel doesn't really quite make sense. But I have a book it's a graphic novel, and it's an anthology book, and it's a pretty dark book. It's kind of a noir, sort of like a crime thing. It's like 3 short stories, and you're following this cat. It's a black cat, and it's called Domesticated Paths Once Crossed, with a big CAT in the middle of domesticated, because it involves 3 stories of kind of dark domestic situations with these different couples, and this cat is sort of the through line. And the last story is a modern day retelling of Edgar Allan Poe's The Black Cat.
Oh,
And
cool.
so I don't know, it's a fun book. The thing I would say it's closest to is a lot of people probably have never seen this, and they're not even aware of it. And I wasn't even thinking about this when I did the book 20 years ago. But there was a movie called Cat's Eye, and it was Stephen King's Cat's Eye, and it was based on his short stories by Stephen King, and it also had a cat that was sort of wandering around and trying to make its way back home, and each story kind of revolves around this cat, and that's kind of what this book is like, because you don't know, this cat's trying to make its way back home as well. And so, but anyway, it's fun. It's a fun little, three stories, about 100 pages. Um, but, but yeah, like I said, that's an older book, and I just thought it'd be fun to re-release that in the meantime, while waiting for this new book to come out. So, which it's not connected to my What Follows Is True stories. So, and I've got the Plum Bayou Mountains, and then after that, I've got three more. One is What Follows Is True, the Island of the Dolls in Mexico, near Mexico City, and then What Follows Is True, the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, California, and then I'm also doing one, What Follows Is True, the Palazzo Dario, and that's this it's supposed to be a cursed palazzo in Venice, Italy, and so yeah, I've got a lot of things kind of coming up, and on those three, I'm working with so all my new What Follows Is True books are collaborative. So I'm working with other people on that, and I'm illustrating the whole thing. I'm more like a director on that, like like art directing, the whole thing. And so with the What Follows Is True Plum Bayou Mountains, I'm working with an archaeologist, and she's the director of the Plum Bayou Mountains Archaeological State Park. Her name's Dr. Paige Ford, and so she's been absolutely wonderful to work with. And then with the other three I was telling you about, I'm working with an art historian named Jennifer Dassel, and she's also the former curator of she's based out of Raleigh, North Carolina.
Oh.
She was the former head curator of the Raleigh, North Carolina Museum of Modern Art. And she is also the author of a book called Art Curious, and her most recent one called The Club. And these are both about art history. She also has a podcast that's called Art Curious. And so I highly recommend her podcast as well. And so anyway, yeah, a lot of things. Like I said, once again, working with other people, and it really does kind of expand your view of the world around you, and
Definitely. I highly recommend research and everything to anyone who's writing even fiction, because there are a lot of things that you can use in reality for fiction.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, with nonfiction, it may be true, but there are truths in fiction, you know what I mean? Like, and that's vitally important, because that's the one of the most, fiction can be such is so often such a powerful way to tell stories that resonate with our world, and our society, and we can learn so much from fiction. And I just can't stress enough people need to read, not just read. I mean, read books, read graphic novels, read novels, read nonfiction books, just read. My wife's a librarian, so at the Fayetteville Public Library. So we're big advocates for reading, and I'm just all about it, all about reading.
My mother homeschooled me, and she had me read a lot.
Yeah.
So yes.
Right.
I would go to the library almost every day to.
Oh yeah, we read to our daughter every day. So yeah, it's great to just read.
Yes, sir. So I have a few little get to know you questions if you're up for them.
Sure.
Okay. So the first one, describe your perfect sandwich.
My perfect sandwich.
Yes, sir.
Oh wow. Man. Huh. There is a the it's called, there's a sandwich place here in Fayetteville. It was called the Green Submarine. Now it's changed, and it's called the Bunker or something like that. I forgot what the name of it now is. It's at a different location, but they have some of the best sandwiches. I can't remember what it's. Maybe it's the Bunker. Anyway, those whatever that is. They have some of the best sandwiches, and their turkey pesto is a great sandwich. And it's really, the thing that really makes it so great is the bread they use, so yeah, sandwich is only so good as the bread that they're using. You got to have really good bread.
Very true.
So,
True.
but yeah, I mean, I don't know, I like something like that with loaded with lots of veggies and really good cheese as well. You got to have good cheese on there.
Definitely. What's a character from a book, movie, or show you're most like, and why?
Oh gosh, that I'm most like. Uh, well, I'm not one that I. What's funny is I'm not like, because I'm not as academic as I was reading the new Dan Brown book, The Secret of Secrets, and there's like Angels and Demons and all those books, and Robert Langdon. I'm not like Robert Langdon, but I love the spirit of what this character that's like cracking codes and doing that sort of thing, and immersing himself in history and traveling about. And I mean, I do love to travel, but I'm not like a code breaker or anything like that. But I love that he deals with, it's like symbols and finding. He teaches in this book. He's a symbologist. That's not really a field that you can study at schools, but you can study symbols within like art history and art classes and things like that. And I love kind of teaching that aspect of like the Northern Renaissance and different periods in history and what symbols mean, and the power of like iconography in paintings and drawings and art. And so I don't know, I kind of think about those books in that sense, because I just love that it and so many of those books by like Dan Brown, like they're fun. They're fun, like kind of a mystery story. I mean, it's like, but all the locations are real and they're historical, and I really enjoy that aspect of those books. And that's what I kind of wanted to do, but in a completely nonfiction manner, where I'm telling, where it's like, because like with those books, you can actually go to those places where the books are all set. And I don't know, that's really, in fact, the location is kind of part of the character of these stories. And so, I don't know, I kind of that resonates with me. And I just read the most recent one not too long ago, but anyway, those are fun. So.
That character does sound a lot like you. You're traveling around trying to uncover secrets of all these places and
Yeah, he's
sharing them
really
with
cool. I'm
others.
not that cool, but
So, if you could be the best at anything in the world besides writing or art, what would it be?
what if I could be the best at anything in the world?
Yes, sir.
Oh man, the best at anything in the world. Oh, um, being present in the moment. I wish I could. I want to be like fully immersed in the moment. I know it's a strange thing to say, but it's like
That's a good thing,
I
actually.
think I think so many of us have a hard time just being fully engaged in the present. And every time I always try to do that, because it's like we have so much noise, in the world that's sort of keeping us from just being fully immersed in the present moment. And that's honestly, that's what I strive to do every day. And I think that if more and more people would do that, oh, it would be so much better. in so many
Right.
ways, you know.
Very true. Very true. So, what's your favorite song?
Oh gosh, favorite song. Oh man. Oof. You know, uh, I don't. I can't think of necessarily a favorite song per se, but I can. Um, when I'm working, I tend to listen to a lot of kind of music that's sort of, well, there's kind of like an ambient aspect to it because I'm trying not to be. I, I don't want a whole lot of lyrics or anything to kind of pull me out of what I'm working on when I'm usually just sitting around drawing, working, you know. And there's a band called Thievery Corporation, and they're out of Washington D.C. And they're like this collective where they're really an amazing band. They work with different other kind of bands, and like it's like a mix of like world music and techno and just all, I don't know. It's really interesting stuff. It's hard to describe, and it also has an ambient aspect to it.
Okay.
And so I listen to a lot of like that sort of Thievery Corporation, Boards of Canada. They're another band that kind of has that vibe, that sort of ambient, but there's kind of a beat, you know, and it's like you can kind of work to it and not, and it doesn't pull you out. You know what I mean? What you're doing. So, um, but yeah, I'd have to say kind of somewhere in there. I can't think of exactly what particular song per se, but probably somewhere in there. I don't know.
Okay. So that kind of ties into my next question a little bit. What do you need for your writing time? Like, do you need it quiet or I don't know, what's your space got to look like?
Yeah, like right here, you're actually this is my we're in my studio right now,
Cool.
which is a room in our house. And so yeah, I'm lucky to have this. It's a basically, you know, a room, like a bed, what would be a bedroom. It's like but it's my studio, and I've got my drawing table, and I've got uh you know, and it's quiet. And yeah, like I said, I kind of listen to a lot of just sort of music that doesn't really distract me, you know,
Right.
when I'm working. And so that's really kind of what you know, and there's different moments, like if I'm working on compiling, putting the page together, then I need more quiet, you know, when I'm actually roughing out the narrative. But then whenever I've got it drawn and I'm just kind of painting or drawing or doing that sort of thing, you know, adding the embellishments and just finishing up the final pages, well, then I can have like maybe, you know, other kinds of information going on, or other kinds of, you know, podcasts or whatever going on, or audiobooks, or, you know, whatever, that kind of thing. Um, so that's always a good thing to do that, you know. Um, so anyway, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That helps us get to know you a little bit better.
Well, good. Yeah. Well, this has been fun. I hope that, yeah. And
Thank you.
yeah, and if anyone's interested in a book, they're on my website, just
I'll post
seanfitzgibbon.com.
I'll
And
post a link to Sean Fitzgibbon's website for everybody in the description. So please check that out.
yeah, they're on
So
Amazon as well, but it's always better for me if you just get it from my website. And then,
thank you very much for being here.
all right.
And thank you. I hope everyone has a wonderful week
Thank
and
you.
look forward to Fun Friday.
That's
Take
right.
care.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks. All right.